Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Rangers Review press conference reaction video. We've heard from Philippe Clement and James Tavernier from Ibrox, no less, speaking ahead of tomorrow's Europa League showdown with Tottenham Hotspur. And Joshua is outside the main stand. Well, he's inside the main stand, as you can see the lovely backdrop behind him. He was in attendance. We will hear from Ange Postecoglou later on this hour as well, folks. So keep your eyes peeled as to what he has got to say. But we'll discuss Clement and Tavernier in detail. Joshua, you were at both press conferences. What are the main takeaways for you?
Yeah, I was, and here at Ibrox, you can't see the pitch because the lights are too bright if we turn the camera the other way around. But it does look really good, and I guess how I'd sum up both press conferences, Derek, is that up until last week, and it could still materialise in this way, but up until last week, I think the predominant conversation from a Rangers point of view about the Spurs game was damage limitation as opposed to possibility. And you're starting to sense a little bit more excitement in and around the stadium, to people you speak to, speaking to supporters as well, that this could potentially be a memorable night for the right reasons. What you would say is a lot has got to go right for Rangers to get a positive result. And that was kind of the theme of both James Tavernier and Philippe Clement's press conferences. Tavernier has obviously played in a lot of these European nights before, hasn't he? And he has a lot of experience of them. I thought it was actually quite interesting discussing his place in the team, effectively saying he's never taken it for granted, even when he hasn't had that competition that he now has from Dujon Sterling. It's going to be really interesting to see if he does start tomorrow night. Also spoke about the fact that his brother, Marcus Tavernier, was also obviously a big part in a Bournemouth win over Tottenham, a deserved Bournemouth win just over a week ago. So he referenced that as well, and talked about something we spoke on the show over the past couple of days, this kind of change in tactics that Clement has had. And Tavernier actually said that that tweak to the team, the slight difference in the final third, is one of the real reasons that Rangers had a more positive week of results last week. Philippe Clement not being drawn too much on specifics. I guess the most interesting point from him was that he admitted he would have to rotate more than he probably would like to, with the Celtic game very much right on the horizon. He wouldn't be drawn on that game, he wouldn't discuss that game, but at the very tail end of his press conference, Derek, he effectively did concede that he's going to have to rotate more and think about that team selection than he would like to. He said if we'd played today being Wednesday, or yesterday, obviously Celtic played yesterday, that would I'd kind of treat the game as separate games, but because of the short turnaround, he cannot do that. So aside from that, he wants his team, all the usual stuff, to kind of confirm a positive last week, to try and use the energy of Ibrox in the European night. And he's had not as many, I don't think he's had a standout European night here compared to quite a few away from home. Again, stressing that despite the fact that Spurs have had a difficult few weeks, they're still a pretty good team with so many dangerous threats, and he was quick to point out that they weren't having a difficult time when they put 4 past Man City in their own backyard a couple of weeks ago. So keeping his cards close to his chest, as you would expect from Clement. But I thought the most interesting point was that admission that he can't play his strongest team here with no consideration for what happens at the weekend, because although he won't say it, the weekend is the bigger game for him and for the club.
It certainly is. Very good evening to some of you who are getting in touch. Scott Girvin, James Skeen, and the wonderful...
It is cold, and as we said this morning, very cold in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Not least in this stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. The lights behind you, Josh, it looks like you've been beamed up from an outer space planet from beyond, but you're very much down here in planet Earth. And let's crack on with some of the other news from Philippe Clement's press conference. On team news, he says Nana is, of course, out. You all know. Tom Lawrence will also be out for the game. Rabbi Matondo is training with the team, but not fit enough yet to be in a squad. Oscar Cortez is coming closer, but that's for a few minutes, then not for too long, but he is available for the squad. Interesting stuff on Cortez, Joshua. Can you envisage him being part of the bench tomorrow, perhaps?
Probably, from what it sounded like. He obviously didn't make it for the trip up to Ross County, which wasn't really a surprise given the magnitude of these two games. Is a positive. Is he going to play a big part tomorrow? Maybe he will, but even if he was able to get some minutes with a view to potentially being able to play half an hour at the weekend against Celtic. Again, these are the options that have kind of evaded Clement over the past, you could say, for a lot of his year in the job. I expect Nadim Barami to probably play off the left-hand side tomorrow. I think it'll probably be Diomande and Raskin and Barron in that midfield. Maybe Hamza Egeman keeps his place up top over Cyril Dessers. I think he should. So definitely Cortez isn't going to start, but there'll be naturally a lot of trepidation around him until you get a run of games, because he's had 3 false starts at Rangers. As we discussed previously, he hadn't had any injuries before he came to Ibrox, which, as you pointed out, he's maybe not isolated in the consistency of injuries increasing the longer he's spent at Rangers. But there's been a lot of excitement over him. There was a lot of excitement at his signing and his arrival in the first place. And it maybe helps in a little bit, Derek, that he's not going to be rushed back in. And I know the last injury was a training injury, but there's not quite as much of a dependence on getting a left winger back right now because of this domestically, what we've been seeing with Egeman and Hadji and Danilo, and the fact that Wilmot Tondo wasn't going to be ready for tomorrow. And I don't think he's actually in the European squad regardless.
He isn't, no.
But that, again, maybe decreases the reliance on getting Cortez back and rushing him back for a game like the Cup final. So if he can get some minutes, I think that'll be a positive. Rangers just have to be so careful on how they use him, because that's 3 times he's broken down now since arriving at the club, and they need to build him back up gently, I guess.
Absolutely. The manager also spoke about the Ibrox crowd. We all know in European evenings it can be somewhere special. This is what he had to say.
Everything, and also knowing that playing at Ibrox with our fans on these European evenings, it's something special, it's something magical. And if they are tough, if they are brave, if they show quality, then there's a lot of energy coming out of the stands also. So that's what we want to give the fans, and that's what the players need to give them.
Yeah, there's no over-egging it. We all know how powerful that the supporters can be in these evenings, Joshua. I remember, I think John Lundstrom a couple of seasons ago, or last season, said it gave them an extra sort of 10% when they walked out the tunnel and they seen the Rangers fans making that wonderful noise. Spurs have sold out their allocation as well, so it's going to be quite a red-hot sort of powder keg atmosphere tomorrow.
Yeah, Battle of Britain is the kind of phrase that keeps getting banded around. Do you know what you would say is that for all the memorable nights Rangers have had here, the one thing they've kind of missed is a big result against an English team? You know, going back to Gerrard, the road to Seville, they've never had that. Now again,
Leeds was the last one.
Yeah, and that was a few months ago, wasn't it? So in this recent run of good European form, which they've had for quite a sustained period of time, that type of Battle of Britain result has evaded them. Asked Clement, one of the things we put to him was how important it is that you get some sort of confirmation, because it's felt like every time in the previous few months, Derek, that Rangers have had a good couple of results and performances, like they did over the course of the last week, whether it be when they went away to Malmo or whether it be when at the start of the season, every single European result as the goodwill of it has been taken away because it's been followed up by some form of inconsistency. I think Clement needs to. We'll take the Old Firm as it comes towards the end of the week, because we're speaking about Spurs at the moment. You could argue that he needs definitely a win in one of these games. Pressure maybe isn't on to win tomorrow, but the pressure is on to, I guess, keep the momentum high, keep the feel-good factor high, and try and keep a bit of consistency, which again has threatened at little points this season to come up, but has always been quickly put back down by Rangers' own actions and their own performances. I think tomorrow night will be a big atmosphere, presuming that the team on the pitch give the crowd the incentive to provide it. Clement again spoke about that, saying over the past course of the past week, whatever it is, the feeling he's had from the fans, the feeling he's had from the stands, has been closer to what it was, I guess, towards the tail end of last season and when he first came into the job. It's going to be a big ask, and again, we'll build up to it on the show tomorrow morning. But despite the fact that Spurs have went away to Bournemouth and lost, they've lost against Ipswich recently. Obviously had that 4-3 game against Chelsea. They also went 2-0 up against Chelsea inside 10 minutes, and they have their weaknesses, but they have their strengths as well. How he manages that balance between trying to be aggressive, trying to appease the crowd, trying to force, I guess, limit Spurs in their build-up, force them backwards, while not conceding the huge open spaces that I think they are at their best in. And that's probably the type of game that suits them best. It's a really difficult balance to strike because, again, as Spurs showed against Chelsea, they went 2-0 up, they could have went 3-0 up, and they're going to have, if Rangers are aggressive tomorrow, which they have to be, they're not going to sit off the game, then Spurs will have the room by which they probably have played their best football in transition this season.
Yeah, I can certainly see goals tomorrow night. Let's just hope Rangers get one more than Tottenham. Interestingly, he was asked, Clement, on his comments at the weekend, which caused a bit of a stushy, certainly on social media, when he was quizzed today in the press conference. You mentioned the financial gap between the likes of Rangers and Tottenham. Can that be bridged in one night? He said that everything can be bridged in one night, so I'm getting old. So I had the luck, and it's not only luck, it's also a lot of hard work to have as a player and as a manager. Several nights of those that the gap was amazingly big, and those are also the best nights. If you then perform and you get the results, there are also the nights that you remember all of your life. Those are also the moments that as a player you remember your teammates really well, the moments of success, the moment of doing something special. So in that way, I hope the players can give themselves and as a team a special night tomorrow. And he elaborated on that, quizzed on what memories do you have from your own career. I don't want to look too old because you're going to look up how long it was ago. But for example, with Bruges winning in the Champions League and AC Milan 1-0, the team that year before won the Champions League with Dida, Cafu, Costa Curta, Maldini, Seedorf, Shevchenko, Inzaghi, and a few other really good guys on the bench. That was a really special evening. And still, if we meet each other and it doesn't happen so much, people still talk about that evening together. So I had a few of those. Rangers have also several of those in their history, and those are the special evenings. So it's a really nice stage for my players. So I thought that was interesting stuff from Clement on that. You mentioned Tavernier as well, Joshua. What's your hunch? Do you think he starts tomorrow? And does he start Sunday as well? That's a big talking point, the big topic of discussion at this point in time.
I don't think he starts on Sunday. I'm not sure about tomorrow. If he's going to start one of the two games, I suspect it will be tomorrow night because of the experience in European fixtures, and because Rangers are at home. Maybe he'll play on the front foot a little bit more if they play that three-man midfield with Diomande, Raskin and Diomande, Raskin and Barrett. Diomande twice would be a surprise. If they do play that midfield three, then it gives you a little bit more cover fullback if he's going to get up the pitch and be aggressive. But then there's probably more of a requirement for Jeffy to do that tomorrow, purely because likely Bayrami will be back on the left-hand side, if not Igaman, so there might be more of a requirement for the left fullback to go high and wide. I'm not sure, because if you're Dujon Sterling, you have a strong, I think, argument to play in both games. I get, not to go over old ground, but he's a better defensive player, and the requirement, because if you look at the last three games, Tavernier's, I think he's been good. He spent more time in the opposition final third, has allowed him to get forward more, attack the box more. I don't think either of these games are necessarily they're going to be too end to end, and there's going to be too much of a threat of transition to probably worry about getting you right back in the box. So my instinct is still that Sterling will definitely start on Sunday. Maybe not definitely, but that's my prediction. And I think that there's a good case for either tomorrow. The risk is maybe you think Tavernier will start tomorrow because Clement will have to keep him happy as well. And also, as you mentioned at the top of the show, he has to balance out those two team selections because Rangers have a recovery day on Friday and Saturday, recovery days alongside their preparation for this cup final. And given Sterling hasn't played games back to back that consistently, while he is fit to do so, maybe the most likely outcome is Tavernier starts on Thursday night and Dujon Sterling starts on Sunday in the League Cup final.
Yeah, I don't think Sterling can play the two games. I just don't think his body will allow it, to be honest. So I think, Tavernier starts tomorrow night. Interestingly, he was quizzed on his brother Marcus, who was part of the Bournemouth team who defeated Tottenham recently. He was asked, what can you take from the game against Bournemouth? He said, I wish my brother would have scored a couple of goals in that game. He had a couple of chances. What stood out from that game? Bournemouth really pressed up high, didn't give them much time on the ball. The only downside points of that game, they should have really finished it off. They had a lot of chances. That's what I said of late. We've been really clinical with what we've been doing. It'll be really important tomorrow night because we don't know how many chances we get, but it's about us being clinical. I think that's the main thing. when we get in those positions, be clinical and obviously not conceding. Absolutely. Don't want to pass up any opportunities a la Václav Černý against Lyon, please. If those come Rangers' way, they need to take those opportunities, Joshua.
They do, yeah. And as we've covered before, their underlying numbers have often been stronger in European competition than domestic competition. The difference is tomorrow they're at home. This crowd will want them to go for it, and they'll be incentivized to do that. Spurs, because they're in it, it'll be interesting to go and we're obviously recording this before Postecoglou speaks, but interested to see what he has to say. That's another narrative in a game full of them. The next few days, Tavernier also said in his press conference, this is why you want to play for Rangers. These are the weeks that make it count. They need to. They really need to, because if they were to lose on Sunday there, and if they were to lose badly tomorrow, then all the small elements of good fortune and momentum that have built up over the course of the past week, and let's not over-egg it, it's only 2 games. Yes, they've scored a fair few goals, but it's too early to say they've turned a corner in this season. There's a lot that still needs to be proven, and one of the things that needs to be proven this season is a big result in a big game. We've not seen that enough, apart from those away European games. One at Ibrox, one against Celtic, definite requirement for Clement. He just has a small task in navigating this tie against Ange Postecoglou's. I was about to say Celtic, but Spurs.
Yeah, I really hope Rangers can compound the pressure on Ange, who is certainly a man feeling the heat at this moment in time. Right, you can watch both press conferences over on the YouTube channel, folks. Do go and check them out. We'll wrap up there. Joshua now going downstairs to hear from what the Spurs manager has to say. That press conference will also be made available on the YouTube channel afterwards. He's due to speak around about 5:45 this evening. Big thanks to Joshua as ever, and thank you to you all for your support to the channel and for tuning in as ever. So if we don't speak to you a little later on, enjoy your Wednesday evening. Bye for now.